Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Coach UV, and this is the Unique Trading Group where strategy meets mindset and discipline turns into income. Thank you guys for clicking in, tuning in to this episode 13 of Monday Madness. That's right, episode 13 of Monday Madness. And right here is where we focus on market structure and price action. All right, stock talk and live commentary. You're in for a good one, so stick around to the end of the video because I got some valuable information. Right now, at the time of this recording, it is 3:36 p.m., the 18th of August, all right? Right before the market close. So, how I like to do, give you some guidance, some recap, and some insights into the sentiment of the market, right? Where is the money and where is the flow? What is the thought of the market? That's what you get when you tune into the show. Monday Madness. Again, for those watching for the first time, this is the episode and the show where I give you guidance for the rest of the week, particularly for the SPY. Sometimes I sprinkle in other tickers. If you want me to do that, drop those down below. And of course, hit that like button, smash the like button if you've been enjoying these series and the episodes I've been dropping thus far. And consider subscribing to the channel. That way you don't miss any valuable videos that I drop. Now listen, I don't want to hold you any longer. I know what you came here for. But quick note, if you're someone new, you're struggling to trade, can't find consistency, you've been doing it for a while, you just need a mentor, you need a system, all right? I teach a stupidly simple trick that works, and you can participate in that, right? By clicking that link above, all right? Take that free mini course. Most people who take that course and watch that video end up making money within the first couple of weeks, all right? So I hope you enjoy that. And again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm only a coach and a mentor. All right. So we're going to take a break and we'll be right back after that. All right, we are back. Listen, guys, I want to let you know something. Over the weekend, I dropped a couple of videos, all right? I had the SPY Insider Leak, all right? Check out that video, all right? We got 100 views in the past 2 days. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for watching. You're prepared for SPY, and you know what's coming in real time. Right now at 3:38, this video can give you insight, all right? Hopefully this video reaches you before 4, all right? And we also have the Trading Psychology, the Discipline Files, Part 3. I've been dropping these series based from Mark Douglas's Trading Like a Professional, right? Trading Like a Professional. So check out this. This is the psychology section, the Discipline Files. It's really good for mindset for those serious traders. And of course, we have my unique stock alert, top stocks to watch, right? For the rest of 2025, SPY, Tesla, FSLR, FTNT. All right, just a couple of them. There are a lot, but wanted to bring to your attention that I prepared you for this move. All right, and now we're going to move on to some other commentary. All right. Listen to BlackRock talk, all right? And after that, we're going to hit those charts to get you prepared for the rest of the week, next week, and some insight into the market, all right?
With new questions about how far this rally can really go. Let's ask Rick Reeder. He is BlackRock's CIO of Global Fixed Income. It's head of its global allocation team as well. And as I said, he is with me here at Post 9. It's good to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
I tell you, you sent me an email earlier, and I had to do a double take. You said this is the best investment environment ever.
I think that.
You mean that?
I do, because, and by the way, it doesn't mean necessarily everything's going up, but there's a couple of things at play that are pretty extraordinary. First of all, as you take the equity side, first of all, the technicals and equities are crazy. I know we've talked about it before. Amount of cash on the sideline, the amount of buybacks relative to the IPO calendar, i.e. the demand versus supply, is pretty extraordinary. And these companies, you know, we've talked about on the show, the multiple's not that attractive. These companies are thrown off the earnings growth. So I looked at 2024. If you strip out Tesla for obvious reasons, Mag 7 year-on-year growth is like 54%. You get through multiple pretty quickly when you're growing that fast. Then you take the other side of it is you've got in income, in fixed income, and you're getting yield levels. Listen, I think the Fed can cut rates, but for until then, you got yield levels. You can create portfolio 6.5%, 7% yield. That's pretty good. How about the one last thing? Today, volatility you don't have to necessarily, one of the things I always think about, what's your exit strategy, what's your escape hatch if you get something surprising? The volatility in the equity market, we did a trade today, equity vol, I think it was 10 vol, 9.5, 10 vol to own a crazy low volatility to own equities, so you don't actually have to take the downside risk. So that's a pretty good environment.
And the Fed's going to cut in September?
Listen, I think they can cut. I think it's almost a given that they cut. And particularly if you got a payroll report that shows what has heretofore happened, you're seeing some sogginess around job hires, around job openings. That I think the Fed's you've got more slack coming into the labor market, so I think they can move. Listen, I still think the funds rate, you can get it down faster and more aggressively than where they are today. You're talking about, the inflation report today. Mm-hmm. You're still talking about, there's a little bit of elevation from tariffs, which I think you have to be respectful of, and I think the Fed's been respectful of that. But you're still running under 3% core CPI, and things like shelter, you're starting to see some improvement in. I think they've got room. You talk about 5-year inflation break-evens at 2.5%. I think you got room to get that funds rate down 100 basis points.
Why aren't they all talking as if they have room? Not everybody agrees with your assessment. They're worried about sticky inflation. They look at the CPI and they say, well, yeah, it beat expectations, but it still shows that it's still a bit of a problem and it's above our target.
So, Scott, I think there's something that's really important. How the interest rate tool affects inflation. You think about the Fed raised rates 500 basis points. The impact on the economy, inflation, I would argue, not terribly significant. The interest rate tool doesn't do a lot today. You think about how companies finance CapEx, big cap. You're not borrowing. You think about the banks are asset liability. The interest rate tool is not that important, except for a couple of big factors. What it does to housing, and you look at mortgage applications, building permits, housing starts, new home sales,
frozen,
stuck. The mortgage rate has to come down. You drop the funds rate, there's some yield curve steepening that probably happens. And then the other side of it is, the low income people who are the borrowers, you're actually, they are getting hurt by this. High savings, older people are actually benefiting from the high rates. And the last thing that I will say, I don't think the funds rate has to be at 4 3/8. The cost to the government, we have too much debt in this country to charge an extra 100 basis points. When I think the transmission of how it impacts inflation that I think is dull to start with, is it worth it? It's a pretty high price to pay.
If the White House is listening to what you're saying right now, they're all standing up yelling, yes, yes, this is the story we've been trying to tell.
Yeah, I'll say a couple of things. One, I think you have room, and I think you have room to bring that rate down. I also think there's something spectacular happening around productivity. Much of what's happening on the backside of this technology investment, not just the traditional hyperscaler dynamics, but you think about how big companies are using data, you think about space as a new technology. Like all of these are geared towards higher productivity, operating at a lower cost basis. That's where we're going. I sent you over this chart, I don't know if you saw that chart, that shows, other than a pandemic, a once in 100-year dynamic, inflation, volatility of inflation, for the last 25 years is incredibly low. We don't run an economy that's manufacturing, commodity oriented. It's not cyclical. Mm-hmm. Volatility of inflation is incredibly low, and we're seeing enhanced productivity. But I'm not that worried if the Fed drops the rate that all of a sudden we're going to see inflation pick up.
You've been bullish. You've urged people to continue to look at stocks. You've made really good calls on this show. Nothing scares you?
Listen, what I like the
valuation, no. You defend growth. Yeah. You're not worried about tariffs.
So I would say, I'll tell you what I'm most worried about: complacency. So think about the vol we're buying today. Like, people are selling us insurance, and people, think about the way markets work, the way insurance works. Nobody buys insurance when you're far from the hurricane. They buy right after when the price is too high. Today, the price of insurance is incredibly cheap. We can hedge our portfolio. Complacency is high. You see it in some of the credit markets. That being said, I think, I'm sanguine on the economy. Mm-hmm. I think we're moving generally in the right direction. Listen, one of the reasons why it's a great investment environment, there's a lot of news flow that allows you to take advantage of opportunities. Markets, particularly in August, they tend to overreact to things. So your ability to actually take advantage of that. But complacency to me today, I'd love multiple to be a little bit lower, to be honest. And I like spreads to be a little bit wider in the credit markets. But you see where the technicals are, where the amount of cash, we were looking at it, amount of money that's gone into money market funds, including last week, is extraordinary. Some of that is going to move into equities and other fixed income and other assets.
We have.
Finally.
All right, that was the commentary of CNBC as always, guys. Listen, so let's get into these tickers, all right? First off, open door. Excuse me. All right, I've been hearing about this from some of the students inside of my Discord and the Unique Trading Group, and that link is down below. All right, join that thriving community, man. Good vibes. All right, learning and earning all in one. Okay, so listen, open door. Guys been telling me about it. The girls have been telling me about it. I finally checked it out. I looked at it. I like what I see, but I don't want to chase. All right, apparently there are some heavy institutions that are buying this. All right, and there's a slight short interest on open door. Okay, and so there is a nice looking chart on a higher time frame on open. I want to give some light commentary, being that I just looked at this chart. All right, but I do see some sort of cut forming. All right, you do want to wait for a pullback. If we can show some strength above and stay above 350, 356 on open, all right, we can see some stronger moving towards the upside. That's only weekly. Now let's check the daily time frame. All right, we have higher lows. All right, we broke these previous highs. All right, so we're trying to tag these highs, but we got to stand patient on open door. As I always like to say, never rush. All right, always trade with a plan. Be patient. All right, look for the inflection points on the market. I always tell you guys, your edge in the market to keep your emotions and your entries and exits right is to use the daily and the weekly opening and closing numbers. All right, that's what you use. All right, so open has a thin zone volume profile right above certain numbers, and I want to check that, and we want to move on to a couple of stocks that we wanted to discuss. Okay, so yes, open door has been explosive, very, very explosive since 52 cents. All right, so kudos to anybody in that trade. All right, never chase, and this is not financial advice. Okay, always wait for a pullback, but there is momentum in the stock. All right, trade with a stop loss if you decide to get in. We have about 10 minutes left in the market today at the time of this recording, so tomorrow will be very, very interesting to see what these stocks do. All right, let's get over to FTNT. All right, we've been trading this stock. I put this stock out a couple of let's say weeks ago inside of my Discord. All right, I have my eyes on this stock. All right, this is what you would call one of those stocks that kind of creeps up right when you see a discount, a really nice discount. And I noticed, and so I wanted to give out the actual play. Okay, so we're gonna actually check that out inside of the Discord here. All right, it says right here in front of you, print money. All right, FTNT swing setup. All right, higher low, thin zone breakout, market NASDAQ date 8/14. That was about 4 days ago. Your entry, simple and plain, right in front of you. Right, it's a number you look at a chart on to enter into your option trade. That's what we're doing. All right, we're using Webull or Fidelity or Robinhood. If you heard about these brokerages, that's how we are placing these trades. All right, that note is for the newbies listening for the first time. All right, but for the people who are watching that are part of my Discord, who are watching my channel, all right, this is inside the Discord. All right, feel special right now. This is a inside exclusive of my swing trade channel with a stock FTNT, and we're just going over that. Right, so this was the entry 7850. All right, a little aggressive. 80.25 was a confirmed breakout. All right, and of course we got to protect our money. All right, stop loss. All right, so accept the risk and have a defined plan. Always define your entry, your exit, and your risk before every trade. And right here are your targets. Okay, 83, 86, 50. All right, these are your targets, the nearest monthly with 30 days plus. All right, 30 plus days on expiration. Reason and price consolidating below major resistance. Okay, now FTNT dropped a whole bunch. All right, hopped a whole bunch in, and I seen it as a discount. Now, ever since I posted, right, we went up about $2, as you can see here, $81. All right, welcome to the show. Okay, and we want to go over to let's see. Matter of fact, since I got you guys in here with me, let's go ahead and check out some other things inside of the Discord, and we'll move on to the stocks. All right, got stock talk. All right, here we go. I am out of wood for the time being. All right. We're going to let her know what we're going to do with that. We're going to let her know. All right. Check DM. Waiting until tomorrow. All right. Yeah, secure profits. This is live, guys, live. Secure profits. All right, we're going to secure those profits. Yes, okay, now let's get over to post your profits. All right, we're going to see what's been going on in here. All right. Hey, Joy. All right, one of the Tier 2 subscribers in here, she traded SPY, all right, plus $21 right there, plus 17. Hey, money in the bank. The bank don't give you that, and she made that in one day, all right. Here's another one, all right, plus $90, all right. That's on BBWI, Bath and Body Works. She's getting some of that money back that she maybe spent for her husband for cologne and lotion, right? Look, another profit, $228 on open call, $3. Hey man, she secured the bag. She secured that bag and she moved on. All right, good trading on that. All right, yes, happy her. All right, that's what you guys get. And of course, in Stock Talk, this is where we communicate, where we talk at, right? This is where we go live, all right, inside of the trade room. And inside here is very, very special moment, all right? And so come and join the family, all right? Come and join the family because like, we already prepared for some of these moves, all right? We're already prepared for some of these moves. And I'll show you some more exclusive things inside of the Discord in another video. But for now, we're going to go back and we're going to go ahead and focus, all right, on some of these stocks, all right? So FTNT right now, 80.55 with a pullback. We have caught the dip here, all right? We need more volume in order to see what we're going to do, all right? Let's go over to the SPY. I know you guys been waiting for the SPY, all right? SPY is at 643.37. Let's go down to the intraday time frame so we can get a clearer view, all right? And guys, bear with me as I navigate the screen. All right, now ask yourself a question. Are we above Friday's close and are we above today's open? That's the question to ask yourself, all right? Are we above Friday's close and are we above today's open? And where is the market trying to go? Are the bears trapped? Are the bears trapped? Do you think you have some folks chasing at the wrong side of the trade? You think maybe possibly? All right, tomorrow we have data. Guys, thanks for watching this episode 13 of Monday Madness, where you get this full guidance and this market update to have some insight on what's going on. This is the way to think, all right? What do we have tomorrow? What is the catalyst? What is fueling the market? All right, Tuesday tomorrow we have the trim CPI 8:30 in the morning before the market even opens, and we have a member speaking, not red star folder news, but still something that could possibly move the market, and you never know, right? And so that's what you want to be thinking about. SPY right now, the question to ask yourself is the price of SPY above the opening price of today and the previous close of yesterday? Let's check those numbers, all right? Let's check those numbers, okay? Today, price opened up at 642.87. All right, we are above 642.87 right now, right? We are above 642.87, and last week, 643.44. All right, and we just hit that. All right, so we want to see these prices hold, okay? We want to see these prices hold. 642.87. I'll put it right here on the screen for you, okay? 642.47. All right. I'm sorry. Let's make that 87. All right, that is the opening of today. All right, that's your edge. Opening of today. All right, and you have last week's close, which was 643.44. All right, so 643.44, 643.44. Bingo. All right, previous close. There we go. These are your numbers to look for to say, hey, are we going to get into calls the next day? All right. This is the swing mindset that I have. All right. So we're going to enter into calls right now in real time. We're going to enter into calls. All right. I am buying calls. All right. Listen, this is live. I'm going to go inside of the Discord. All right. We're going to go inside of the Discord. All right. At everyone, we are buying calls. Swing on SPY 2 weeks out. All right, so listen, we're going to get back to the SPY chart. All right, remember, these are the numbers we need to see stay in order for us to take a trade towards the upside. You understand what I'm saying to you? All right, it's a risky trade, but for those who are not scared and we understand this, all right, we take these kind of risks, all right? We take these kind of risks. So that's what we're going to do, all right? We're going to look for it right now. We're going to look for the appropriate price. And we're going to see what we can afford. All right. Okay, so the high was 646. So we want to try to get a 646. Okay. In real time, I'm looking on a real option chain on a Webull account. As long as we are above here, okay, as long as we are above here, the prices you see in front of the screen, I want to buy calls on SPY. All right, I want to gain some of that exposure. I want to gain some of that exposure. You understand? All right, so I think I found the culprit. I think I found the culprit. I think I found what we want to do. All right. Yes, we did find that. All right, so that's what we're gonna do. All right. This one. All right. There we go. Okay, listen, we are in there. All right. Stop loss has been placed. Absolutely, stop loss has been placed. All right. So we are going to make sure that we are on point. So that's a 26, and we're going to play that 26, and we're going to play, let's say, 245. All right, 26 and 245. 26 and 245. Good to close. All right, 26, 245. All right, if you're wondering what these numbers are that I'm calling out, all right, 26 is my stop loss price, right? My premium. I got cheap calls, all right, for $30-something. My stop loss is at 26, so I'm willing to lose $3, $4, $5 in order for the trade to go in this direction, all right? And the 245 is where I want to take profit at. So that's about, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of gain, okay? So if I spent 20 and it gets to 245 minus 20, it's about 220. So I make about a good $200 on this trade if it works out. Now, as long as we are above these numbers, I'm bullish. All right, and we have about 3 minutes for market close. All right, so that's what we want to think about. Okay, let's move on. All right, let's move on to FSLR. That solar industry last week kind of popped, so we want to make sure that we focus on the stocks that have momentum. All right, I would never consider chasing, but we have some momentum towards the upside. All right, FSLR has a lot of good buy ratings. All right, a lot of great fundamentals when it comes to this stock. Okay, and the stock has been beaten down for a long time. As you can see, we have a technical bear trap, all right, on a higher time frame. Here's a W shape. Okay, anybody who knows me knows the first time watching, we like this W shape. Yes, you can make money in the market recognizing letters. Okay, you might can't see that before I told you, but now you see. All right, a W shape. Let the bears try once, let them try twice. All right, once we trap in the bears for them trying to short a market at demand levels, we trap in their liquidity. Here is your entry on FSLR, a simple line break of market structure. Right here is your entry. Right, if you enter on my process of my system here from 144 all the way to 200 and something dollars is a swing trade that you can take. This swing lasted from May 12th all the way now to August 25th, all right, working with the weekly criteria of a simple line break and recognizing a W. Yes, this is your entry here at the W shape right here, all right, right there, all right, that buy point. Okay, now let's move on along, and we're going to end the video shortly. We're going to look at Tesla. Right, we're going to look at Tesla. All right, we got 1 minute before the market close. Let's see what we have. All right, and we have the market ran, and we got our stops ran. Oh boy, we got our stops ran on SPY. FTNT got bought up. All right. Okay, this is very interesting. Very, very interesting. I'm going to let the chat know. Okay, only swings, all right? Okay, talking to the chat, guys. This is an impromptu live with the group, all right? Listen, Monday Madness, episode 13. Hope you guys have been enjoying so far. Hit that like button, man. Hit that like button, man, and consider subscribing to the channel, all right? This is episode 13 of the Monday Madness edition, all right? Tesla, all right? Above 330 and 335, I'm looking for momentum towards the upside. Simple and plain. That's what I'm looking for, all right? It's been a really, really great market day today, all right? FSLR, FTNT, SPY, all right? Tesla, all right? These were the stocks that I wanted to talk to you about. And of course, there are a lot of other opportunities like CoreWeave, all right? And Hood, all right? And some of the cryptocurrency and stablecoin stocks that I will get into because I know you guys like that, all right? Let me know what you guys prefer throughout this YouTube series, all right? I'm doing this for you guys, trying to provide value. I talk back, I engage. So you give me some advice on things and some suggestions that you would like to see more, right? Whether you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced, and I'll get to that. I want to bring value, but I want to stress that trading isn't about being all over the place. Remember, it's about the person who studies one thing, right? That one kick, practice one little karate kick 10,000 times, one of them, instead of trying 10,000 kicks 10,000 times. I fear that person who's focused on one thing that many times. All right. And so you want to remember that. All right. Getting knowledge is good, reading books, YouTube videos, but actually practicing, right? Paper trading, things that you've learned and gaining confidence, right? And getting to know how it feels to be a great loser, all right? Because that's what it's about, how to protect your money. These are essential parts of trading that a lot of people skip. So soak this in. Give yourself some grace, all right? Hope you enjoyed the video thus far. The market is closed. It's 4:01 p.m., all right, on August 18th. SPY is above. We are still making higher lows. We are still making higher lows on this market. So I'm expecting Tesla to try to breach some of these levels, all right? As long as we get to stay above 335, 340 is in the making, and you want to secure some profit there. But if you wake up in the morning and it's above, as always, wait for a pullback. Wait for a pullback, okay? Because you missed a move, you don't want to chase. But there are some institutional buys on Tesla, and so I want to stand patient. I'm not in the trade, but I will be staying patient on Tesla. All right, now at the end of the day, back to SPY. As you guys can see, just to give you this commentary to make it make sense. Now, I got stopped out on my calls, right? I put a tight stop. I didn't want to give back any money. I didn't want to risk it, right? I got stopped out. The market is at 643.33 right now. So it's above where it closed at, okay? I could have got stopped out and forced out just for the market to go up tomorrow. I'm very bullish on the market, all right? I went over this through my weekend videos, all right? 643.44 is where it has to get to in order to stay bullish. It's caught in between the closing price and the previous close. So notice that, all right? This is an interesting episode 13 of Monday Madness, and I hope you've been enjoying and getting some value in that, all right? But it's also above 642.87 with opening today price. That's what that was today. So we want to wait for data tomorrow. We got more earnings, all right? We got some macroeconomic events coming out, so you guys want to be ready, all right? Hope you enjoy so far. We're going to end this video there. Listen, make sure that you check out the links below. I got an amazing book for day trading options for those who are willing to learn, all right, and the desire to find consistency, okay? Check out that link below. It's titled The Power of Paytience, Mastering Emotions in Trading while Turning Discipline into Income. And remember, reading a book and watching a video about trading is not what's going to take it to the next level, but it's actually you getting into the game, getting your reps in, right? Getting strong, getting your mental reps. Because listen, what physical thing does it take with your body like to put on a trade? It doesn't take a physical body movement. It takes a mental muscle movement. And so work on your mental, you understand? Work on your mental, all right? That's what it's about. I also have one-on-one coaching and mentoring for those who desire, for serious traders who want to get to the next level. All right. There's proof for my concept inside of my Discord from folks making profits, from me mentoring, and have testimonials from other students. All right. And so it's all there. Check out the beginners list if you're new. All right. Check out my playlist to get caught up. All right. I have the Monday Madness episodes. I have the halftime show and OPEX Friday. Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. And over the weekend, you get your guidance and your educational videos to strengthen your mindset. All right. Again, guys, I'm Coach UV. This is the Unique Trading Group, where strategy meets mindset and discipline turns into income. And this has been a great one. You guys stay safe out there. Hope you and your family stay blessed. All right. God covers you. All right. As always remember to define your entry, your exit, and your risk before every trade, and you'll be stronger. Till the next time, guys. Peace.